How can society at large become more inclusive and aware of ace and aro folks? I mean, I already kind of poked fun about the way we market. I mean, I was going to say like makeup and clothes, and then I was just like, nah, everything. The way we market everything has a sexual component. Yeah, seriously.
Right.
But how can we be more accommodating, more inclusive, rather?
Maybe get creative. I feel like at this point, it's just a crutch. It's like, yeah, of course you're going to make a sexy woman holding a hamburger. Like, that's what they all do. That's expected. It's boring. Do something fun.
I think like some of it is just acknowledging that it exists. Like when people are giving, I don't know if people still give the talk. I don't know if parents still do that, but maybe include that there's a chance that this, you know, like the desire for romance, the desire for sex or whatever is not going to kick in. And if it does, it's cool. Like people know that it's not a universal given. And if it doesn't, then they don't have to worry about like, what is wrong with me or anything like that. Like I'd like to see a lot more ace inclusion in things like sex education classes. I've spoken to some kids where it has been there and like, there was a section on asexuality. It was really small and not very good, but it was there. And like just including that or, you know, like if someone, a lot of it's like not a lot of asexual people and you know in like relationships, even aromantic people can be in like queer platonic relationships. But one thing, a lot of people are, you know, like choose to be alone. Like a lot of people in the community will choose deliberately to not partner up. And one of the things that comes up a lot is everyone's friends will like, you know, maybe they'll get married or they'll couple up and then they kind of drop their single friends. And I think like, or it's like, it's couples night, so we're not going to invite Frank because Frank lives by himself. And I'm like, Frank probably still would like to socialize with you. Maybe Frank does not want to go to couples night, but if you ask him, you'll know. And I think like being more inclusive of single friends is something that I think would be really important for a lot, especially like the older ones, but even for like the teenagers. Like when it's like the super hormone rush part of life, like for asexual teenagers, even if they want a relationship, that gets really challenging. And I think a lot of time, like people sometimes get like left out of things. And I think like trying to make an effort to include people, find out their tolerances. Like some people are cool with really dirty jokes, some people are not. Like kind of find ways and like, you know, like that the environment can be more supportive of like, you know, like the asexual or aromantic friend. Like if someone's in the group and we're talking about like sex all night, maybe make a point to talk about like cosplay or something else. Like, you know, things like that. And just acknowledging it exists. Like I was watching, I think it was like Big Mouth one time, and there was like a song about all the different sexualities. And my fellow was just like, I'm asexual, that's there too. And I was like, oh, and like it was so little and stupid, but for me it meant the world because, you know, people don't really include us. So when someone's like in a positive light or just even mentions it exists, it is freakishly meaningful. And that's probably very sad at this point because it's 2020. We should not be that like stopped for recognition. Like I know personally when I saw the episode of BoJack Horseman when like Todd came out, I bawled my eyes out because I mean I had almost made it 40 years on this planet before any character on the screen had ever put into words anything that I felt ever. And like that's a long time to be circling the sun before that happens. And I think like even just the tiniest little thing means so much. Like on the Avon forums, there's a thing called World Watch where people will link to all the articles that come out around asexuality. And one of them is called Small Mentions. And it could just be as little as this character used this word in an episode once. And everyone's like, ah! Like,
oh, wow.
Just acknowledging
what little pearls you can find. Yeah.
I know, right? It's so sad. Like, it became kind of like I guess like asexual drinking game. I don't drink, but whatever, where someone had a thread for like characters who are asexual. And someone was like, how many pages do we get of just Todd? 11. The answer is 11, by the way.
Sounds about right.
Todd, but like That's
but it's not enough.
No, we need Jughead too. Looking at you, Riverdale, CW.
CW, man, they dropped the ball on a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, it's kind of trashy TV. So my friend Julie's ace and loves the show. She's like, the show is kind of terrible. Maybe it's not really a loss. And I'm like, but I'm still so angry.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I heard you talk about a couple of great tips, just inviting your ace friends, being cognizant of what we're going to maybe extend and call couple privilege here, and some things like that. But for folks watching tonight who just want to be better allies, do you have any kind of final words?
Honestly, just listen. If someone comes out to you, don't treat it like it's not a big deal. Because a lot of kids come out, like they're sitting on this for like years and they're like, finally tell someone. And someone's like, oh, well, why did you tell me that then? And it's a really big deal for them. It's if somebody shares this part of themselves, it means that they trust you. And if you're one of the only people they've told, that means it was a really, really big deal for them to do that. And I think when it gets downplayed, it's just like, just you can not have sex without telling me about it, dude. Like, it's fine. Some people might want that, but if someone is going to the effort to tell you, like, celebrate them and recognize them. Because I think a lot of the time, and I see this a lot in the like LGBTQ plus community, it's just like why though? Like, and I think
what's there to talk about? I mean, how there still isn't a God, how they still don't want to have sex.
Like there's a lot of things tied up with that. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And I think like listening and being excited for people, and even if you don't necessarily know why it's a big deal, appreciating that it is. Yes. It's a very big deal for people. And whilst it might not be a big deal for you, like there are a lot of people out there who are very hateful, not terribly great people. And, the friend in your life has probably seen some of them. Or even if you don't know any asexual people, you totally do, by the way. You just probably don't know it, but you absolutely have at least one ace friend. I'm telling you, like, you've got at least one. Even if you live in the mountains with nobody, someone. So just occasionally acknowledging it exists and being excited for it. Your closeted ace friend will probably go home and like cry for joy in the bathroom or something. I don't know, but like just realizing it's there and realizing it's sometimes hard and recognizing that is huge. And if people start giving someone why are you single at work? Oh, we'll hook you up with someone. It's fine. You're going to love this person. And they're always like, I'm good. Like maybe like, hey, lay off. We're going to go back to Frank now. Frank doesn't want it. Like, leave Frank alone.
Yeah, he's not a crazy lady because he doesn't want to date. Like it's right. We don't need to be throwing around these terms of old maid and spinster, and I mean most of which are heavily gendered. But even in sort of like a jokey, like, oh, you're not an old maid. We just don't need to be defining people in these ways.
It's also, I think, for like the asexual dudes, like there is so much extra shit like goes with that. Like someone was talking about like there's so many asexual women but so few guys, and I'm like, it is really, really hard to be an asexual guy. And it's very rare that I'm like as a woman going, oh, let's talk about the men. But like for real, it is hard. And there's a lot of stuff is tied up to like that kind of like masculine machismo. And even in like gay culture, like sex is very important part of it. So giving space for dudes to be non-sexual, but that is like an even bigger conversation.
Oh, that's an entire episode right there.
Like that is going to be so important. I feel like I volunteer doing like email answering for Avon, and it's like an anonymous one. People sending questions. Not everybody wants to open themselves up to a public forum, so they might email. And some of the questions from the guys are really hard. Like, I think just giving space for people to not be interested in sex. And if someone isn't dating or they're a virgin, which is a completely made up concept anyway, leave it alone. And maybe let's just retire virgin jokes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, fair to say.
Because it serves nobody.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I definitely appreciate you kind of walking us through. And you're right. Like, there is so much more to be said about the way our culture and society deals with sex, and the lack thereof is a huge piece of that. I'd love to have you back to kind of dive more into some of those pieces. Not to mention the fact that we've barely even talked about burlesque and fetish wear and all these other crazy things. So I'm so glad that we were able to have you here tonight.
I'm so excited to be able to be here all remotely. Like,
Yeah, right?